Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a deck that I think has a lot of potential, and I think it's going to be a very menacing and possibly quite an annoying Pokemon to deal with. So the Pokemon that I'm referring to is actually the Medicham. His Yoga Kick attack only does 30 damage, but his Omega Barrage ability actually attacks him to attack twice in any given turn. So for every 10 damage increase that we actually do give out to our Medicham, we're actually going to be increasing his total damage output by an additional 20 damage. So what exactly do I mean by that? So for example, if we were to attach a Muscle Band to our Medicham, we would actually be able to increase the damage by an additional 40 damage. Have a Machamp in our bench, that's an additional 40 damage. Anything like that. So the total damage output of our Medicham is very quickly increased, and that's exactly what makes him such a deadly Pokemon in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people are probably going to sort of underestimate his actual capabilities, but I feel like he's a very solid Pokemon. He does only have 90 HP, which is probably one of the biggest downfalls to him, but nonetheless I feel like it's a very potent Pokemon. And the other nice thing about it is that in theory we could actually use the Yoga Kick attack, and then right after we can go right ahead and use the Calm Mind attack to actually heal us for 30 damage, in case we would rather do that as opposed to just two straight out attacks. So I feel like this is a very nice Pokemon, so we do have a lot of support for him. So for example, we have a total of 3 Machamps. We're going to be running a very specific Machamp though. We're going to be running the one with the Fighting Fury ability. So per Machamp that we actually do have in our bench, each of our fighting type Pokemon attacks will actually be able to dish out an additional 20 damage. So Machamp is very nice. And the beautiful thing about fighting type decks in general is that we can get our stage 3s going very early, in that we have cards such as the Karina, so we can actually use that to, for example, if we have a a Machop in our bench, we can use the Karina to grab out a Muscle Band. So not a Muscle Band, a Rare Candy, and with that we can also go ahead and grab ourselves out the Machamp. So Green is very nice. I really like it. It's pretty much going to substitute the Ultra Ball for the most part in our deck. So that's why we're ultimately only running a single copy of the Ultra Ball. But just to discuss some of the other Pokemon that we are actually running in our deck, guys, we are going to be running a single Landorus. We're going to be mainly focusing on using his Shout of Power attack. This will allow us to actually retrieve a fighting type energy from our discard pile and attach them to one of our bench Pokemon. So it is nice. You can actually sort of accelerate the rate of energy attachment to our Medichams. So we are going to be running a single copy of that. We're also going to be running 2 Hawlucha. I'm sure you guys sort of know just how potent and powerful of a Pokemon he is. Has a lot of nice things going on with him. So for a single energy, he's able to dish out 60 damage. He has a fighting type resistance, so a Pokemon like Donphan isn't able to dish out a particularly large amount of damage, and he has absolutely no retreat cost. Very solid fighting type Pokemon. So we are going to be running 2 copies of him, and we're also going to be running a single copy of the Terrakion. Again, this is just to sort of mix around the weaknesses of our Pokemon, and his Retaliate attack can be quite potent. Can actually dish out 90 damage for a mere 2 energies, and of course, with all the strong energies, muscle bands, the fighting stadium, the Machamps, things like that, can be a very potent Pokemon as well. So we will be running a single copy of him. So that is basically all the Pokemon that we're running, guys. So we're ultimately running a 3-1-3 line of the Machamp, and we're running 4 Meditites and 4 Medichamps. Again, we are running 3 rare candies just so that we're actually able to evolve our Machops into the Machamps right away. We're going to be running the Computer Search as our A-Spec card. Computer Search or Dowsing Machine, I feel like both would actually work extremely well, but I ultimately leaned a little bit more towards the Computer Search type of, the Computer Search as our A-Spec card. The reason being is that I feel like our deck is sort of one of those decks that gets very quickly going, because I mean most of our Pokemon are able to dish out damage for either a single energy or for 2 energies, so I felt like Computer Search would be more handy, whereas on the other hand, Dowsing Machine typically comes in handy later on into the game. So that's why I ultimately decided to run the Computer Search as our A-Spec card. But you guys can absolutely play around with that, and possibly some of you guys may actually prefer the Dowsing Machine, or maybe even the Scramble Switch. I don't know, but ultimately I aired more towards the side of this card. So we're also going to be running some other cards. So we're going to be running a Starling Megaphone. Again, our deck to a certain extent heavily relies on our Pokemon special abilities, but thankfully the Omega Barrage ability is actually not an ability card per se, so that means that it's not nullified by cards like the Garbodor one Sterling Megaphone should absolutely be more than enough. We really don't encounter a lot of Garbodor type decks anymore anyways, so that's absolutely fine. So we're going to be running a single Sterling Megaphone. We're going to be running Switch. I'm sure you guys know the basic idea behind this card. And Ultra Ball. We're going to be running a lot of standard type of cards, so we're going to be running a total of 2 VS Seekers, 3 Junipers, 4 Ents, 1 Max. Sorry, I'm actually going to discuss the Maxie's Ball trick. The thing about Maxie's Ball trick is that by playing this card, well, number one, the sort of downfall to it is that it has to be the only card in our hand. But if it actually does happen to be the only card in our hand, we're actually able to grab out any of our discarded fighting type Pokemon and put them into our bench. So this is quite beautiful in that we can use it to grab out a Machamp, for example, which is a stage 2 type Pokemon, and to draw an additional 5 cards. So Maxie's Hidden Ball trick is quite nice. So we are going to be running a single copy of it. We never know when it may actually come in handy. We're also going to be running Teammates, another very unusual supporter type card. I actually feel like this is such a nice enough card that it's worthwhile to actually run one copy of this in every single type of deck that players are actually going to be using, because it pretty much acts as a double computer search, allowing us to look for any 2 cards from our deck, provided that one of our Pokemon does happen to actually get knocked out though on our turn. So I think it's very, very nice. So we are going to be running a single copy of Teammates. I'm probably going to be running at least 1 Teammates in every one of our decks from now on, just because I feel like it's a sort of staple type card. And again, you never know when it may actually come in handy. So 1 Teammates is another card that we are running, guys. We're going to be running, of course, 3 Karinas. This is just to allow us to grab out our fighting type Pokemon, ultimately as our Ultra Ball, and of course to grab out an item type card as well. So Karina is quite nice. We are going to be running 3 copies of that. We're going to be running 2 Lysanders. Of course, you guys know the basic premise around that. And then we're going to be running a total of 3 Fighting Stadiums just to increase the total damage output of our fighting type Pokemon by an additional 20 damage to our opponent's active EX Pokemon, of course. And Muscle Band, again, not a card that I really need to explain, and a total of 11 energies, 4 of them being fighting energies and 4 of them being strong energies and 7 of them being the fighting energy. So with that, guys, let's go and actually see what this deck is capable of. I've already used it in a couple of battles. It's had some astounding performance so far. I've won the vast majority of my games. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of disconnection issues, things like that. So I actually did try to record this like 2 other times, but seems that my games tend to get cut a lot. Looks like the game is very glitched right now with the whole Primal Clash set release. So that's not exactly something that I'm too happy about. Our opponent's also running a full fighting type deck, so I'm assuming he may actually also be running a Medicham deck. And let's see. Can't actually see any of his Pokemon right now. I'll actually start off by placing our Landorus, because he can go and attack for a single energy, so he is quite a nice Pokemon. And let's go and place down a Terrakion and a Machop to our bench as well. And of course, I'll be drawing a card. And okay, so it looks like we're actually going to go first. So okay, so our opponent's actually probably not running the Medicham deck as I thought. So I'm going to go and attach the Fighting type energy to our Landorus and attach a Muscle Band to him as well. And then I'm going to go and end for some new cards in our hand. And okay, looks like we have been able to grab onto one of our Hawluchas, so that's quite nice. It's able to dish out a lot of damage to our opponent's Landorus EX. But I really do want to get our Meditites out, because the Medicham is going to be the main attacker of our deck. Just again, a very, very potent Pokemon. So let's see who our opponent is actually going to attack. I'm assuming he's probably going to pick on the Machop, possibly, or maybe our Hawlucha when he actually does use his Hammerhead attack. So, okay, so our opponent is running a Donphan type deck in combination with Landorus EX and Lucario EX. A little bit unusual. Don't really see Donphan being paired up with these big EX type Pokemon. But we never know. I mean, I'm sure our opponent's deck is pretty solid. Fighting type Pokemon, just in general, have been pretty good thanks to the Furious Fist release. But let's see who our opponent actually attacks. And I'm assuming it's probably going to be the Hawlucha, possibly the Machop as well. Okay, and it looks like he is going to try and pick off at our Hawlucha. Looks like we are actually able to grab onto the Meditite, so that's quite nice. I will be using the N again just to get some new cards in our hand. So let's go and attach the Fighting Energy to our Meditite for now. And then let's go and use the VS Seeker and hopefully get some nicer cards in our hand. Okay, so I'm going to be placing down another Machop for the time being. And I'm actually going to use the computer search to get rid of our fighting energy, just so that we can retrieve it by using our Shout of Power attack. And I'm actually going to give up the Meditate as well for now. I think would possibly be a good choice. And I'm actually going to grab out the Medicham. Let me see. Okay, I thought I had a lot of them prized, so that would have been not something I would have been too happy about. So let's go and attack with the Landorus Shout of Power attack and grab out the Fighting Energy and attach it to our Meditate. So hopefully we can bring out our Meditate soon. Again, because he's very, very quickly able to dish out massive amounts of damage. So he does have the Strong Energy, and so right now he would be able to dish out 100 damage per attack. So not enough, unfortunately. Our opponent did use the Zerasek, but thanks to our Landorus and the other Fighting Energy that we do have in our hand, our Meditate would still be able to attack our opponent's Landorus EX. And it looks like he's trying to get rid of our Halucha. And okay, so let's go and attach the Fighting Energy to our Meditate and then evolve him to the Medicham. Okay, so at the moment we'd be able to dish out 50 damage and an additional 50 damage. If I use the Karina and grab ourselves out a Machamp as well as a Rare Candy, which I think we do have. I'm just going to make sure before we actually do decide on that. And okay, looks like we do have the Rare Candy. So let's go grab that out as well. And then I'm going to go and retreat the Landorus to bring out our Medicham and then get rid of that Landorus EX. So as you guys can see, we're already able to dish out 140 damage. Again, I think this is a very impressive deck. So let's go and use Yoga Kick for 70 damage and another 70 damage and draw onto 2 of our prize cards. Really, really do love this deck, guys. Definitely will be seeing the Landorus EX coming out. But again, I'm not really worried. I mean, the other nice thing about our deck that I forgot to mention earlier on is that we're running a bunch of non-EX type Pokemon. So for every of our Pokemon that our opponent does actually knock out, he's only going to be able to draw onto a single prize card. Looks like he's actually going to lure out our Terrakion for the time being. So that's okay. Probably going to be using the Ultra Ball on our next turn to grab onto a Machamp, a Machoke, and probably going to be using the Colors as well. Hopefully we're able to grab onto our Switch card. But let's see who our opponent actually targets. And yes, looks like he is going to get rid of our Halucha. Seems to be his main priority. But okay, so I could actually get another Machamp, but it wouldn't necessarily be a wise choice. So let's just go and stick with a Machoke for the time. A Machoke for the time being. So let's go right ahead and bring him out, and I'm gonna go and use the Colorus. And okay, look, unfortunately our Terrakion is not able to attack just yet, but I will be placing down another Halucha. And I mean, our opponent does have the Lysander because he did just use the VS Seeker. So I will be just attaching a Fighting Energy to our Terrakion for now, because if our opponent doesn't try to actually get rid of our Terrakion, we will be able to start doing some damage to our opponent's Landorus EX. I'm not actually sure if that's the right choice that we just made right there, but okay, it looks like we are going to get Hypnotoxic Lasered. Luckily, we are still going to be able to stay awake. I mean, our Retaliate attack would only be able to dish out 50 damage, with 70 damage with a Strong Energy, and then 90 damage with the Muscle Band. So unfortunately not enough to actually sort of get rid of that Landorus EX. And our opponent is slowly sniping away at our bench Pokemon. So looks like the prize game is even at the moment. We both have a total of 2 prize cards from each other. And okay, so it looks like we've just gotten into one of our we've just gotten another one of our Machamps. We're going to attach the Strong Energy to our Terrakion and a Muscle Band as well. Let's go and use the Colorus for some new cards. And okay, it looks like we've been able to grab onto another one of our Meditates, so hopefully we can get him going as well. And let's go and use the Retaliate attack for 170 damage, because our opponent did just knock out our Landorus. I actually completely forgot about that. So unfortunately we were just 10 damage short, but nonetheless, that Landorus EX is going to get knocked out, and our Medicham is, with his Omega Barrage ability, is actually able to attack, even if we actually do knock out one of our opponent's EX Pokemon. So that's something, again, that I really, really do like about the Medicham. And looks like he's actually going to bring out our Machamp. That's okay, though. We do have the Korrina at hand, so I'll be using that to grab out our Switch, and I'm probably going to be bringing out our Medicham. Okay, and it looks like he's actually going to use the Scoop Up Cyclone. Very smart on our opponent's hand. Just thinking, so would I actually be able to do enough damage? So 50 damage, 70, and 90 damage. Yeah, so we would actually be able to get rid of that Landorus EX with our Medicham. So again, really, really do loving these guys. So let's go and place down the Fighting Stadium, and then I'll evolve our Meditate into the Medicham, place down a Fighting Energy to him, and then I'll be using the Karina to grab out a switch. Who should I actually grab out? I guess I'm going to grab out a Meditate for the time being, and looks like we do have the switch as well. I had made sure of that earlier on, so let's go and switch into our Medicham and then get rid of our opponent's Landorus EX. So 110 damage for a single one of our Yoga Kick attacks, guys. So this is why I'm very, very much impressed by this Pokemon in general. I'm assuming the Donphan is going to come out. Would absolutely be the smartest choice on our opponent's hand, and I'll probably be attaching the Fighting Energy to our Medicham on our next turn. So let's see what our opponent is actually going to do. I don't really foresee him being able to make a comeback. He would be able to get rid of our Terrakion though by using his Hammerhead attack, but we will actually be able to win the game if our opponent can't get rid of our Medicham or possibly drag out one of our Machamps or something like that. And it looks like it's probably going to be our game. So again, guys, this is why I'm really loving this Pokemon. I think he's going to be quite underestimated. I think our opponent would have been smarter had he actually decided to bring out the Donphan. Hopefully he uses a switch or something and actually doesn't attack with the Donphan. I mean, that's really sort of the only thing that our opponent can do at the moment, because his Landorus EX would be would take the knockout if we were to actually attack him. And it looks like he's going to AZ him. So okay, our opponent was smart with respects to that, but again, he can't really use the spinning turn attack because okay, so he decided to use it, so he's going to lose for actually doing that. So let's go and get rid of that Lucario EX. And thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. And let's just take a look. Okay, so it looks like we're going to win 10 coins. Again, thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.